Hello, everyone. I'm Tanya Rivero. We begin this morning in Washington, where President Trump's pick to lead the Veterans Affairs Department has withdrawn his nomination. Admiral Ronny Jackson is at work today as the White House doctor. He announced his withdrawal earlier today and denied allegations of improper behavior. President Trump warned Montana Senator Jon Tester for calling Jackson, quote, Candyman, over accusations the doctor gave out Ambien and Percocet. The president called into Fox and Friends this morning. Here's what he had to say.
And I watched what Jon Tester of Montana, a state that I won by like over 20 points, really, they love me and I love them. And I want to tell you that Jon Tester, I think this is going to cause him a lot of problems in his state. He took a man who was just an incredible man, respected by President Obama, gave him his highest rating. You saw what President Obama said. Yep. President Bush, he was the doctor to President Bush, to President Obama and the family. He's been my doctor, and he runs a fantastic operation. You know, they have many doctors, and they run a fantastic operation. And honestly, I said it to him. He didn't come to me. I said, you know, Doc, you run a great operation. How do you think you do at the VA? Now, we can talk about experience, but the VA, when you think about 13 million people, sure, you could take the head of the biggest hospital corporation of the world, and it's peanuts compared to the VA. So nobody has experience. You know, it's a big monster. And I'm really proud of the job we've done for the VA because we're working right now on choice and really big. But we got rid of so many rules and regulations that made it impossible. And we're really doing great at the VA. But I want somebody that's going to be great. He would have done a great job. He's got tremendous heart.
Any idea who you might...
These are all false accusations that were made. These are false. They're trying to destroy a man. By the way, I did say welcome to Washington, welcome to the swamp, welcome to the world of politics. Sure. But for Jon Tester to start bringing up stuff like Candyman and the kind of things he was saying, and then say, well, you know, these are just statements that are made. There's no proof of this. And he has a perfect record. He's got this beautiful record, unblemished. His son is a wonderful boy, goes to Annapolis at the top of his class, one of the finest cadets. For him to be doing this to this man and this family, I think Jon Tester has to have a big price to pay in Montana.
And for more on this, I want to bring in CBS News Chief White House correspondent Major Garrett. He's with me from Washington. Major, we just heard the president there. He was not very happy. He had one person in particular he seemed to blame. What did you make of that?
Well, look, Jon Tester, the ranking Democrat on the Veterans Affairs Committee, has driven this problem that has resulted in Dr. Jackson withdrawing his nomination as Veterans Affairs Secretary. Whistleblowers and those representing themselves as having either grievances, workplace or otherwise, or who had witnessed or represented that they had witnessed either the free or too free dispensing of sleep aids like Ambien or opioid painkillers like Percocet in White House travel, brought all these allegations to Senator Tester. More than 20 people brought these allegations to Senator Tester, and he and his Democratic staff summarized them in a two-page document released yesterday. And that essentially ended the prospects for Dr. Jackson to become the next Veterans Affairs Secretary, because the political atmosphere around him was already tenuous, to say the least, and it became essentially disastrous after this memo surfaced. Even though Dr. Jackson kept saying on his behalf, these allegations are either mischaracterizations of what went on or they're flat falsehoods. And he wanted a chance and sought a chance to have a public hearing to give his side of the story. But it became clearer and clearer as the day went on yesterday that Senate Republicans were not up for this fight. And the political atmosphere around Dr. Jackson's nomination was caving in. And so this morning he withdrew. And the president wants to put sort of a political target on Senator Tester's back as a result of this. Senator Tester seeking re-election in Montana this year. And if the president can somehow turn this against Tester, that might become part of that conversation there. But I guarantee you, Democrats will look at this and say, no, Senator Tester did exactly the right thing.
Right.
He took a nominee who possibly wasn't qualified, had some underlying issues, brought them to the surface, and prevailed. In this contest, Jon Tester, the Democrat from Montana, is the winner because this nominee of the White House has withdrawn.
And Senator Tester released a statement saying, quote, "It is my constitutional responsibility to make sure the veterans of this nation get a strong, thoroughly vetted leader who will fight for them." His office also says the senator is urging Congress to continue its investigation into the White House medical unit. So what's your take on that?
That there is enough evidence Senator Tester believes that this investigation should continue, whether or not Dr. Jackson remains the White House physician, that there is something amiss, something that's not following proper procedures within the White House medical unit. And that is a signal, both politically and in terms of congressional oversight, that Senator Tester and his Democratic staff believe they've found something bigger than just the Ronny Jackson for VA Secretary nomination. And if Congress follows through and unearths problems within that White House medical unit, Senator Tester will be vindicated. If it doesn't, this will just look like a political scrap that the White House lost and Senator Tester won.
Right. So what's next? Looking forward, what can you tell us about who President Trump might be considering for his next nominee to lead Veterans Affairs?
I don't have any particular insight into that. I know from talking to a senior administration official last night, as the White House was bracing for the expectation of Dr. Jackson's withdrawal, that, in the words of one senior administration official, well, Congress isn't going to like the next pick. If they didn't like this one, they're going to really not like the one the president nominates the second time around. What does that mean? I don't know who it is, but what it suggests is, and this is kind of the backstory, Tanya, to all of this. The Veterans Administration, the Veterans Affairs Administration, is protected not just constitutionally and by law, but members of Congress have VA facilities all around the country, and they want a big say in the running and the bureaucracy of the Veterans Administration. And there's always been a tussle between the White House and Congress over who runs policy at the VA, Congress or the White House. Part of the Ronny Jackson nomination story is that Congress, Republicans and Democrats, perceive that nomination as someone being so close to President Trump, who would basically be writing all policy at the Veterans Administration precisely as President Trump wanted, whether Congress was on board or not. Part of this resistance to Ronny Jackson is related to these allegations, but it was there from the beginning because Congress wasn't really comfortable with someone it perceived being so close to the president and essentially a rubber stamp for President Trump's approach to veterans policy. If the president nominates someone similarly close to him and Congress perceives that same underlying orientation, the next confirmation battle will be tough as well.
All right, Major, I want to switch gears for just a moment and also ask you about EPA Chief Scott Pruitt. He will soon testify before lawmakers on the Hill. What can you tell us about that?
That he's going to essentially tell Congress, don't look at me. Look at all the other people who you've never met or probably don't know the names of who work at the Environmental Protection Agency. Almost everything that you're mad about is their fault, not mine. That is a rough summary of the testimony he intends to give. An internal document outlining the points he will make in his congressional testimony was obtained by CBS. Administrator Pruitt will say, I no longer fly first class. He did so for quite a while, saying it was under some kind of security threats. He now flies coach in adherence with underlying government rules about travel. He will also say that substantial raises given to two senior advisors and aides to Administrator Pruitt within the EPA were approved by others, not by him. He will also say that a phone booth, a secured, separate, constructed phone booth, price tag about $43,000, was approved by career EPA staff. And that essentially all the things that have become either questioned, scrutinized, or controversial about Administrator Pruitt's approach to the ethics, taxpayer dollars, methodologies of running the Environmental Protection Agency are all the fault of someone else and not him. The White House has said it's reviewing all these various allegations. It will wait to hear Administrator Pruitt's congressional testimony before rendering a verdict on how much longer he stays within the administration. But this is a gauntlet that Administrator Pruitt is going to have to go through. Within the House, Republicans and Democrats have already called on him to resign. He's under increasing pressure to explain himself, and Congress will render a verdict, as will the White House, about how credible and believable those answers turn out to be.
Indeed it will. Major Garrett in Washington, thank you.
Sure.